He thinks he's God. Richard Ellison, vice president of an investment bank, slams his Centurion card on the reception counter, booking the presidential suite at Aurelius, the most luxurious hotel in Manhattan. Beside him, his young mistress glows, dazzled by crystal chandeliers and $1,000 wine. Richard believes everything is under his control: money, power, and a marriage he sees as a flimsy curtain hiding his secret pleasures. He has no idea that every detail in the suite, the robe embroidered with ED, the elegant stationery, is a clue to a truth he won't be able to bear. Because while Richard revels in his triumph, a woman is approaching, carrying a devastating secret. The wife he thought was caged in her gilded prison is about to emerge as a queen. He chose the wrong battlefield, and his life is about to implode in the very paradise he created. Golden afternoon light bounces off the glass panels of the Ellison Tower, turning the city into a mirrored labyrinth. In a corner suite on the 47th floor, Richard Ellison stands still. His silhouette stretches long across the gleaming wooden floor. Below him, Manhattan sprawls like a giant circuit board. Streams of light pulse. Roads weave into a grid of power he believes he controls. He adjusts his cuff, revealing a gleaming Patek Philippe watch, then turns to the mirror.
Sign it, Richard.
His navy-tailored suit fits like a second skin. The silk tie is knotted tightly, each stitch a bold declaration of arrogance. Richard doesn't just wear a suit. He wears status, the conviction that he was born to walk over others. In his mind, this weekend isn't a getaway. It's a stage, a secret performance where he's both director and star. The sole audience, Chloe Matthews, 25, with wavy blonde hair, whiskey-colored eyes, and endless admiration for him. To Richard, she's the flame that ignites his ego, something Evelyn, his wife, never gave and never will. Evelyn Davenport. Her name slides through his mind like a flat note. The wife he chose 15 years ago, daughter of an old but stable family, a quiet woman, forgettable. In their sprawling Park Avenue home, she's like a painting on the wall, elegant, expensive, but static. Richard loves that convenience. Evelyn never questions, never probes when he works late, when vague calls come at midnight. To him, she's a safe asset, a blue-chip stock paying steady dividends. And for that, boring. Chloe is different. Chloe laughs loudly, lighting up every room. Chloe touches him with hungry eyes, and each time, Richard feels young again. Not just a middle-aged man in a suit. He's a conqueror, a king without a throne but capable of turning any place into his domain. His phone buzzes on the walnut desk. A text from Chloe. "Ready for paradise, Richard?" He smiles. The smile of a man who knows he controls everything. On the screen, his face reflects faintly a man at his peak, for whom every door opens with a single call. He scripted this carefully. To Evelyn, he spoke of an urgent conference in Zurich Swiss banks, international rates, enough jargon to keep her uninterested. He even packed fake documents in his suitcase to play the part. Evelyn, as always, quietly folded his clothes, placed his blood pressure pills beside his shirts, and sent him off with a cool, polite smile. Richard sees it as a silent victory. His wife is too docile, too predictable, and thus, invisible in his game. He leaves home like a man untouchable by guilt, a king departing his castle for another kingdom, unworried about being recognized. A black Bentley waits in the lobby. He slides into the back seat, inhaling the scent of Italian leather mixed with sandalwood from a diffuser. The city recedes behind soundproof glass. Richard relaxes, closes his eyes, picturing Chloe entering the hotel lobby, her eyes wide as she sees him waiting. That thought alone sends a rush through his veins, like a hit of dopamine. Tonight, they'll step through the doors of Aurelius, New York's most opulent hotel, where Richard believes every secret can be buried under money and power. There, they'll toast under crystal chandeliers, break every rule together, and he'll prove that in this world, Richard Ellison gets whatever he wants. He doesn't know that in this lavish temple, another throne awaits. And it's not for him. Dear viewers, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to this story. Shocking twists are still ahead. Please leave a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. It's exciting to see who's following us from around the world. Rate 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more thrilling tales. The Bentley glides smoothly along Fifth Avenue, cutting through traffic like a predator through a herd. New York darkens. Neon lights flare, casting a chaotic glow of money and desire on Richard's face. Beside him, Chloe leans toward the window, her green eyes wide, drinking in every shimmering light. As the car turns into the plaza before Aurelius Hotel, Chloe's heart skips a beat. The hotel's tower looms majestically, its facade of white marble laced with gleaming brass accents. The ground floor opens like a triumphal arch, where massive chandeliers spill golden light like honey. Every detail exudes the authority of an ancient empire. Richard leans back, a smug smile curling his lips. This is the moment he's waited for, the moment his young mistress realizes she's being pulled into a world few can enter. He squeezes Chloe's hand as the doorman, in a deep green uniform, opens the door with a bow honed by decades of practice. Stepping into the lobby, Chloe is breathless. The soaring ceiling is hand-painted with mythological frescoes, Greek gods lounging on clouds, gazing down at mortals below. Crystal chandeliers hang densely, each prism reflecting light like a star trapped in a storm. The Italian marble floor gleams like a chessboard, polished to mirror the figures above. Soft music drifts from a corner, a piano's lively yet refined notes blending with the clink of crystal glasses and the faint squeak of leather shoes on stone. The air carries sandalwood mixed with aged wine, a scent of enduring power. Chloe clings to Richard's arm, feeling like a princess in a palace. Richard is different. He strides like he owns the place. No gazing at the ceiling, no glancing back, no awe. To him, Aurelius isn't a place to admire, it's a place to possess. He's the one who spends, the one this entire staff exists to serve. He's here not to marvel at beauty but to flaunt his power to Chloe. At the dark mahogany reception desk, Richard pulls out his black centurion card, placing it down with a casual flick. The receptionist, a young woman with neatly pinned hair and a professional smile, recognizes the card's weight instantly. "Welcome, Mr. Ellison," she says, her voice light but significant. "The presidential suite is ready. We've chilled a Krug 2008 as per your request." Chloe's jaw drops slightly, but Richard only nods, as if it's expected. He turns to her, whispering, "See, darling? Here, every door opens with my name." Chloe's eyes sparkle with awe and desire, exactly as Richard wants. The porter, an elderly man with silver hair and a ramrod straight back, leads them to a private elevator. Its brass-lined doors close, enveloping them in luxurious silence. The interior is red velvet, golden light reflecting off brass handrails. Chloe grips Richard's hand, her breath quick. "I can't believe I'm here," she whispers. Richard smiles, brushing a kiss on her cheek, like a king granting favor to a loyal subject. The elevator opens to a private foyer. Double dark wood doors, intricately carved, swing open to reveal the presidential suite, a space more like a penthouse than a hotel room. Floor-to-ceiling windows frame New York skyline. A grand piano sits in one corner. A blackwood bar is stocked with rare liquors, and the bedroom sprawls with a four-poster bed draped in satin. Chloe steps in, spinning in the center, her laughter echoing off gold-trimmed walls. "Richard, this place, it's like a dream." He leans against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes brimming with pride. "No, darling, this is real life. This is how I live. And now, so do you." The porter silently sets down their luggage, handing Richard a heavy gold-plated keycard. "Anything you need, press the private call button. You have full access to our 24/7 services." Richard slips him a tip, nodding dismissively. The doors close. They're alone in a world suspended above the clouds. Richard pours Krug into 2 crystal flutes, joining Chloe on the velvet sofa. They clink glasses. "To a perfect weekend," he says. "To us," she replies. The champagne's bubbles dance on Richard's tongue like a victory anthem. But as he sets his glass down, his eyes catch something. On a neatly folded napkin, a silver-stitched monogram glints, 2 interlocking letters, E.D. Richard freezes for a fleeting moment, his fingers brushing the cold thread. Evelyn Davenport. His wife's name flashes through his mind. He blinks, forcing a chuckle. "Just a coincidence," he mutters, then raises his glass, draining it. The first morning light slips through thick silk curtains, casting thin golden streaks across the Persian rug in the presidential suite. Richard Ellison wakes in rare ease, the pillow so soft it swallows his head, the city's noise blocked by soundproof glass. Chloe remains curled in satin sheets, her blonde hair spilling messily over her shoulders, her face serene like a luxury dream. Richard steps into the marble-tiled bathroom. The shower's water steams the mirror. He wraps himself in a plush white robe, tying it tightly, then pauses. On the robe's lapel, glinting under the light, is a delicate silver monogram. E.D. He frowns. His fingers trace the stitching, the cold thread biting his skin. E.D. Another coincidence. His mind echoes with the name, Evelyn Davenport. He laughs dryly, alone, then brushes it off. Just a brand, he whispers. But back in the living area, he starts seeing it everywhere. On the stationery neatly placed on the mahogany desk, an embossed ED. On the corner of linen napkins, on the silver sugar bowl clasp, even on the leather room service menu. Everywhere, those two letters, interwoven, proud, repeating like a drumbeat in his chest. Richard feels a vague unease, not quite fear, more like hearing a discordant note in a perfect symphony. He's a man who reads people in boardrooms spotting hesitation in a blink, a grip too tight. Now, he's surrounded by signs he can't decipher in a place he thought he ruled. A knock at the door. Henderson, the butler, enters, pushing a gleaming silver breakfast cart. Fluffy scrambled eggs, fresh truffle, warm pastries, thinly sliced smoked salmon, and a silver coffee pot. The aroma fills the air, briefly easing his unease. Richard nods, forcing a casual tone. What's this logo? ED. The hotel's founder? Henderson pauses, just long enough for Richard to notice. He bows slightly. It's a long-standing emblem, sir. It signifies ownership. Ender. Ownership. The word lands in Richard's mind like a pebble in a still lake, rippling endlessly. Henderson offers no more, leaving quickly, the room thick with coffee scent and heavy silence. Chloe wakes, pulling the sheets, sitting up like an excited child. She grabs her phone, snapping photos of the breakfast tray. Oh my God, Richard, look at this. I've never seen anything so fancy. Her voice is bright, oblivious to the unease coiling around him. He forces a smile sitting at the table, but his coffee cup trembles slightly. Evelyn Davenport. That name again. Like a whisper in his ear. Evelyn, the wife he deemed harmless, invisible, existing only to maintain his perfect family facade. Evelyn, the woman he never thought about, beyond mandatory dinners and social events. E.D. Evelyn Davenport. Could it be? Richard shakes his head, sipping bitter coffee, trying to drown the thought. Coincidences happen daily. A name means nothing. He's just overstressed. Yet, as Chloe leans across the table, her eyes sparkling, her smile radiant, Richard sees Evelyn's face flash in his mind. Evelyn with her calm eyes, her subtle smile. The contrast knots his stomach. For the first time in 15 years, he realizes he never truly looked at Evelyn. He only looked past her, like she was expensive furniture. All day, Richard can't escape those letters. At the spa, by the private pool, on the balcony overlooking Manhattan, his eyes keep catching ED. The more he dismisses it, the more it haunts him. A vague feeling grows, as if this hotel isn't his domain, but someone else's. Night falls. Chloe slips into a fiery red dress, ready for the Michelin-starred dinner Richard reserved. She twirls before the mirror, asking innocently, "Do I look like a woman who belongs here?" Richard looks at her, but in the mirror, Evelyn's face appears. For the first time in years, a chill runs down his spine. He forces a smile, takes Chloe's hand, and leads her to the private elevator. But in his chest, the whisper repeats, E, D, E, D, E, D. And somewhere deep down, he starts to realize, he's not the one writing the script here. He might just be a supporting character, walking straight into someone else's trap. The chandeliers in Aurelius's dining room blaze like a private universe. Each crystal prism reflects candlelight, creating a sea of stars above tuxedoed guests and women in evening gowns. Soft music weaves through the air, a violin's gentle notes blending with the clink of cutlery and the murmur of wealthy conversations. Richard and Chloe are led to a private table in a velvet-curtained alcove. The manager, a slender Frenchman, bows deeply, his voice reverent. "A pleasure to serve you, Mr. Ellison. This is our exclusive table for honored guests." Richard leans back, his gaze smug. Chloe sits across, her face glowing under candlelight, her backless red dress a streak of fire in the gilded room. She looks around, eyes wide, whispering, "I never thought I'd be somewhere like this." Richard lifts his Krug champagne, clinking her glass, a smirk on his lips. "This isn't just dinner, it's a way of life, and you will get used to it." The courses arrive, fresh oysters on a bed of misty ice, seared scallops with a citrus foam, veal braised in red wine for 6 hours. Chloe is enraptured, gasping softly with each bite. Richard, like a king, recounts his deals, the rivals he crushed. His words flow like a manifesto of power, and Chloe listens like a devout follower. He raises a glass of vintage Bordeaux, the light catching his confident face. In that moment, Richard believes he's scripted this universe. Every detail from the chandeliers to Chloe's adoring eyes is arranged to affirm his dominance. Then the air shifts. It's subtle at first. A pause in the violin's rhythm. A waiter standing straighter than usual. Conversations around them soften. Laughter fades. Richard raises an eyebrow, leaning back, sensing the room's energy shift toward the entrance. The wooden doors open. A small group enters, led by a woman. Richard freezes. The wine glass in his hand grows heavy, his fingers like stone. It's Evelyn, but not the Evelyn he knows, the quiet woman in cashmere sweaters and pearl necklaces. This Evelyn is different. She wears a midnight blue tailored suit, its cut accentuating her slender frame, her pregnant belly subtly visible. Her hair, usually loose, is swept into an elegant updo, revealing a face radiant with a presence Richard has never seen. Diamond earrings catch the light like shards of ice. Each step, her heels click on the marble floor, steady, deliberate, like a drum roll before a verdict. Beside her are 2 men. One, a silver-haired corporate lawyer, eyes sharp as a blade. The other, Aurelius's general manager, deferential in his posture. They follow her like guards escorting a queen. The dining room falls silent. Forks hover, breaths catch. Chloe turns, curious, then slowly looks back at Richard. His face is ashen, lips parted, voiceless. Evelyn strides forward, her gaze sweeping the tables, then locking onto Richard's red-curtained alcove. No shock, no tears, just a chilling calm. Not the look of a betrayed wife, the look of someone in absolute control. Richard feels the blood drain from his face. 1,000 excuses shatter in his mind. He glances around, seeing pitying eyes, whispering lips. Chloe trembling as she sets down her glass. Evelyn is only steps away. Her familiar perfume wafts through the air, a scent he hasn't noticed on her in years. But now, it's sharp, like a winter wind. She stops. Her eyes pin him. In the heavy silence, her voice rings out, calm, commanding. "Richard, I believe. You're sitting in the wrong seat." The words slice through the air like a blade. Richard freezes. Chloe gasps, her eyes darting from the pregnant woman to the man beside her. The dining room silence is so thick, heartbeats echo. In that moment, Richard knows. The stage he built has collapsed, and he's not the star. He's the prey. In the gold-gilded room of Aurelius, silence blankets everything, so dense every breath reverberates. Evelyn stands tall, her hand resting lightly on her pregnant belly, her eyes never leaving Richard. Her words, "You're sitting in the wrong seat," hang like a thin, icy blade, shredding the illusion Richard wrapped himself in all weekend. He opens his mouth, scrambling for an explanation, but his throat is dry. Chloe, trembling beside him, whispers, "Richard, is she your wife?" Evelyn doesn't glance at Chloe. To her, the young mistress is a cheap trinket, out of place in this palace. Her focus remains on Richard, like a judge awaiting a defendant's final plea. Then her voice rings out, steady, resonant, filling the room. "I think it's time to make something clear. As of last week, Davenport Hospitality has a new chairwoman, and that's me." The words hit like lightning. The room holds its breath. Richard blinks rapidly, his face blank. The letters E, D, on napkins, robes, stationary flood back, piecing together a horrifying truth. No coincidence, no random chance. Evelyn, his wife, is the true owner of this hotel. She takes another step, her voice calm but cutting like a verdict. "Richard Ellison, esteemed bank vice president, Lied to his wife about a business trip to Zurich. He came here, with his mistress, to enjoy the presidential suite in my hotel. Whispers erupt around the room, curious, pitying, even gleeful. Chloe flushes, her trembling hands clutching the tablecloth. Richard feels the world tilt, but he forces out words. Evelyn, I can explain. She cuts him off, her voice icy. No need. I've gathered enough evidence over the past 3 years. Bank statements, photos, messages. I let you tie your own noose. Richard is stunned, each word a hammer blow. He, the man who thought he puppeteered. Everyone realizes he's the puppet in the hands of the woman he underestimated. Evelyn lifts her chin, her eyes blazing. The joint bank account is frozen. The Park Avenue apartment held in my family's trust you no longer have access to. Your belongings are being packed. As for your job, she glances at the silver-haired lawyer beside her, Abernathy, and continues. He sent a full dossier to your bank's board. Photos, illicit transfers to your mistress. It's all on their desks. By Monday, you'll be out. The air explodes with gasps. Chloe turns to Richard, eyes brimming with tears. Oh God, will I lose my job? Evelyn glances at Chloe for the first time, her gaze cold enough to make the girl shiver. Miss Matthews, a junior employee involved with her direct superior. A gross violation of professional ethics. You've destroyed your own career. Chloe sobs, mascara streaking her face. Richard reaches for her but pulls back under Evelyn's piercing stare. Her voice stays even, each word heavy. Richard, you turned me into a shadow. You thought I'd stay silent, just a decorative piece. You were wrong. I waited. I prepared. And today, in my domain, I take everything back. Richard feels the velvet chair turn cold beneath him. The candlelit room now feels like a courtroom. Every eye from surrounding tables pins him a man stripped of glory, turned into a spectacle by his pregnant wife. He tries, desperate. Evelyn, for God's sake, think of the children. Evelyn's hand rests on her belly, her gaze unwavering. I am thinking of them, and they'll grow up without seeing a greedy, treacherous father who built castles on sand. The violin shifts to a sharper, urgent melody, as if scoring an execution. Richard wants to stand, to run, but his legs are nailed to the floor. Evelyn leans forward, placing a thick stack of papers on the table. Divorce documents, meticulously drafted. A silver pen rests on top, gleaming under candlelight. You'll sign, and you'll leave with nothing. If you resist, I'll destroy the Ellison name. Every mention of it will mean failure and shame. Richard stares at the papers, the ink blurring before his eyes. The room holds its breath, waiting for his next move. The red room is silent, save for the faint crackle of burning candles. Richard stares at the divorce papers, his hands trembling, sweat beading on his forehead. Once, his signature moved millions, swayed markets. Now, the silver pen before him feels like a sword at his throat. Evelyn sits across, back straight, her gaze calm but ruthless. Chloe huddles beside him, her face streaked with mascara, shaking like a lost child. Eyes from other tables mix curiosity, pity, and something close to glee. Richard's voice cracks. Evelyn, please, at least let us talk privately. Evelyn shakes her head slowly. No, Richard, you made our marriage a performance. The finale deserves an audience. A silver spoon clatters onto a plate, like a gavel's strike. Richard's head bows, his hands clench, then fall limp. He grabs the pen, signing with a shaky, distorted scrawl. Evelyn nods, her face expressionless, like a judge sealing a preordained verdict. In that moment, Richard realizes, everything he thought was his was taken in minutes. And the worst pain, it's happening not in secret, but under the watchful eyes of high society. The restaurant manager approaches, placing a leather folder on the table. His voice is low, polite but cold. Your bill, Mr. Ellison. Richard snatches it, desperate to reclaim some shred of authority. He pulls out his wallet, slapping down the black centurion card with the gesture of a wealthy man. The waiter bows and leaves. A minute passes, then 2. The manager returns, his face apologetic, his eyes blank. I'm sorry, sir. The card was declined. Richard's head snaps up, blood rushing to his face. Impossible. Run it again. We tried 3 times, sir. The account appears frozen. Whispers ripple through the room. Richard fumbles for another card, his corporate visa. The waiter shakes his head after swiping, also declined. The air grows suffocating. Chloe covers her face, tears streaming. Richard feels his skin being peeled away under the crowd's scrutiny. A man who once moved billions can't pay for his mistress's dinner. He stands, voice breaking. "There's a mistake. I'm Richard Ellison. His words choke as the hotel's general manager, the man who accompanied Evelyn, steps forward, his tone firm. "Sir, without a valid payment method, we must consider this theft of services." The warning hits like a thunderbolt. Richard's legs weaken. Evelyn sits still, her hand on her belly, eyes unblinking. Without another word, she watches her husband's total collapse. 2 security guards appear behind Richard. They don't touch him, but their presence is enough. He stammers, I'll pay. I just need to call." "Mr. Ellison," the manager says sharply, "you have 10 minutes to collect your belongings and leave the premises." Chairs shuffle as whispers grow louder. Chloe sobs loudly, shoving her chair back, her red dress streaking across the marble floor like blood left after a battle. Richard stands alone, the world crushing down. As he's escorted through Aurelius's lobby, the chandeliers still sparkle, but their light feels like 1,000 cold eyes. The doorman who once bowed now avoids his gaze, opening the revolving door mechanically. Outside, a drizzle begins. Richard's coat soaks through in minutes. He stands on the curb, the Bentley gone registered to Evelyn, of course. He reaches for his phone, tries to call a ride. Uber declines. All linked cards are invalid. The man once called the King of Wall Street stands stranded in Manhattan, in a drenched suit, clutching an empty wallet, eyes vacant. All that remains of his empire is a soaked, shivering shell under the rain. He looks up through the drizzle, the Aurelius Tower glowing like a throne suspended in the sky. But that throne was never his, never was. For the first time, Richard understands. He wasn't the master of paradise. He was an intruder, just cast out, naked, humiliated, with nothing left. The drizzle stings like tiny needles piercing his skin. Richard Ellison stands on the sidewalk before Aurelius, his coat clinging to his body, heavy like a garment of guilt he can't shed. Limousines glide by, their dark windows reflecting the hotel's chandeliers, the opulence he's been exiled from. A taxi honks, spotting him standing lost. Richard raises a hand, then lets it fall. No cards, no cash. Evelyn stripped him bare. He digs through his pockets, finding a few damp coins, not enough for a single ride. His phone blinks. 9% battery. He opens the ride app. Payment failed. Update method. He swallows hard, dialing familiar numbers, friends who smoked cigars with him in VIP lounges, who clinked 50-year-old whiskey glasses. No one answers. Some hang up after 2 rings. The rain grows heavier, as if the city wants to wash him away. Richard walks, each step sluggish, his soaked leather shoes splashing on gray pavement. Each stride echoes the glittering light behind him, Aurelius's beacon, shining for those who belong, not for him. He finds a small bar in a narrow street. Its foggy glass door opens to a dim yellow glow. He pushes in, a bell jingling faintly. The air reeks of cheap liquor and stale smoke. He sits on a creaky wooden stool, ordering the cheapest bourbon. The bartender glances at his drenched suit, shrugs, and sets a glass down. Richard lifts it, the liquid burning his throat, but it can't warm the humiliation scorching inside. He pulls out his phone, scrolling contacts, stopping at Frank Donovan, a junior associate who once looked at him like a monument. He dials. After a few rings, Frank's voice answers, weary, cautious. "Richard. God, I was just about to call you. Frank, I'm in trouble. Evelyn, Richard tries to explain, but his voice fractures, words jumbled. He talks about Aurelius, the divorce papers, the declined cards. His words spill like a drowning man clutching at anything. A long pause on the other end. Then Frank, low and slow. "Richard, I got an email from the board. They're holding an emergency meeting Monday. And you're the topic." Richard grips the phone, heart pounding. "No, that's impossible. Evelyn sent everything. Photos, statements, details of unauthorized transfers. They're citing ethics violations. Richard, you're getting fired. The rain drums on the bar's roof, merging with Richard's racing pulse. He opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. The sounds around him fade, as if he's being sucked into a vast void. Frank continues, voice hoarse. I can't help. Everyone's siding with her. I'm sorry. The call cuts off. The screen goes black. Battery dead. Richard sets the phone on the damp wooden counter, staring at the empty bourbon glass. A throbbing pain pulses in his temples. In his eyes, the bar's dim yellow lights blur, becoming the 100 mocking gazes from Aurelius's dining room. He laughs, a hollow, empty sound echoing in the small room. The bartender looks puzzled, but Richard doesn't care. The truth dawns. No money, no home, no job. Evelyn didn't just take everything. She erased him, inside and out. Outside, the rain pounds the tin roof, like an endless funeral dirge. Richard slumps, his expensive suit now just wet fabric, no different from a rusted knight's armor. He closes his eyes, hearing the rain mix with the violin from that fateful dinner. Each note tears at his final mask. For the first time, Richard Ellison feels utterly exposed. No king, no throne, just a trembling man in the dark. 6 weeks after the Aurelius night, Richard Ellison drags a rattling suitcase up the narrow stairs of a dilapidated building in outer Queens. Each step creaks, the air thick with mold and fried food from the apartment below. The peeling green door before him, marked 4B, is chipped, paint flaking like an unhealed wound. This is his new home. The apartment opens to a cramped space. Stained walls, yellowed ceiling, a tiny window facing a gray brick wall. A flickering fluorescent light casts a cold, alien glow. The warped wooden floor groans with each step. Richard sets his suitcase down, the sound hollow in the silence. A silence unlike the opulent stillness of before this is the silence of poverty, oppressive, confining. He sits on a plastic chair by a rickety wooden table, face buried in his hands. For a decade, he lived in a Park Avenue penthouse with frescoed ceilings and windows framing Manhattan's glow. Now, his only window reveals a stained brick wall. His world has shrunk to 4 suffocating walls. At first, Richard clung to scraps of pride. He wore his suit to Apex Solutions, a small, obscure financial firm that hired him for compliance checks. The office is a windowless room under fluorescent lights, young colleagues eyeing him with disdain or pity. His new boss, 15 years his junior, tosses a thick stack of files on his desk. Enter these by this afternoon. Work once given to interns. Richard stares at the outdated computer, each keystroke a stab at his past. From orchestrating billion-dollar deals, he now inputs soulless data. Each tap reminds him his power is gone. Evenings, he returns to this musty apartment, switching on an old, staticky TV with 5 channels. On the news, Evelyn appears, speaking at a hospitality conference. She's in a white suit, her pregnant belly prominent, her stance regal. The ticker reads, Evelyn Davenport, new chairwoman, shaping a sustainable future. Richard slams off the TV, hurling the remote, its plastic cracking sharply. But her image lingers. The woman he dismissed now hailed as a queen of a new era, and he just a forgotten man in a moldy apartment. On rainy days, the ceiling leaks, water dripping into a tin bucket. Richard lies on a stiff single bed, hearing the drip, recalling the marble bathroom, the jacuzzi facing the skyline. The contrast cuts deeper. One evening, he opens his suitcase, finding remnants. A Patek Philippe watch, gold cufflinks, a few small paintings. He takes them to a pawn shop. The owner glances over, smirking, I'll give you half value. Richard nods, no haggling. Each item sold is a small death, a piece of his crown dismantled. Bit by bit, his throne vanishes, leaving only a bare shell. Late at night, Richard sits by the tiny window, staring at the black brick wall. In the dark, he sees Aurelius, its grand lobby, crystal chandeliers, Evelyn in her navy suit, eyes blazing. He clenches his fist, but it trembles, falling limp, nothing left to grasp. Outside the hall, neighbors argue, sirens wail, pipes clank, a symphony of poverty he's forced to hear nightly. In his heart, a vast emptiness opens, not just the loss of money, home, or job. He's lost his identity. He's no longer the king of Wall Street, just a man in a cheap apartment, drowning in darkness, discarded by the city that once worshipped him. In the mirror, his hollow eyes reflect a stranger, a man lost, without throne or crown, only desolation. A fall morning. Sunlight spills like golden silk across Fifth Avenue. The Davenport Tower rises proudly, its glass facade mirroring Manhattan's blue sky. On the top floor, the chairwoman's office stretches like a palace in the clouds. Evelyn Davenport sits, hands resting lightly on a polished mahogany desk, light illuminating her serene yet commanding face. She wears a pristine white suit, her pregnant belly clear beneath the fabric, her posture steady, regal. Her eyes once ignored by Richard now burn like fire. Behind her, the interlocking ED logo gleams on the wall, a permanent mark of her reign. The boardroom on the 45th floor is packed. Board members sit around an oval table, faces a mix of doubt, admiration, and unease. Evelyn rises, stepping to the center, her voice clear, commanding silence. Davenport Hospitality is entering a new era. We're not just selling luxury, we're selling trust. She clicks a remote. The screen behind her lights up. Charts, projections, strategies. The Davenport Green Initiative appears a plan to restructure the hotel chain for sustainability, from renewable energy to organic dining. Gerald Croft, a silver-haired board member, frowns. Miss Davenport, this will cut short-term profits. Our shareholders. Evelyn smiles, cutting in calmly. No, Gerald, this isn't cost its investment. The under 40 seconds the wealthiest demographic of the next decade spend based on ethics and sustainability. If we don't evolve, we'll become relics. The room grows heavy. Evelyn steps forward, voice firm. My father built this empire on quality. I'll carry it into the 21st century with responsibility. Silence stretches for seconds. Then a young director stands, clapping. Another joins. Applause thunders through the room. Croft sinks into his seat, eyes dark. Evelyn nods, her faint smile sharp as steel. She's claimed her place not through marriage or name, but through leadership. That afternoon, Evelyn steps onto her office balcony. The city sprawls below skyscrapers gleaming, traffic pulsing like veins. She rests a hand on her belly, stroking gently. A life grows within, a child she vows to raise in a different world, not one of arrogant men destroying, but of strong women building. Her phone buzzes. An email from Forbes. Interview request. Evelyn Davenport, new queen of hospitality. She smirks, replying, available. The Park Avenue penthouse, once Richard's staged facade, is now a true home. Evelyn returns at dusk, kicking off her heels, donning an apron, cooking with her children. Their laughter fills the kitchen, spreading through rooms once cold. The kids look at their mother with awe they never gave their father. To them, Evelyn is both mother and leader. In that moment, she knows. She didn't just reclaim power from Richard. She was reborn. The woman once underestimated, living in a man's shadow, now stands in the light. No longer dismissed, no longer a decoration. She's a queen on a new throne, and the world from Paris's glittering halls to Tokyo's ancient corridors will now speak her name. Late night in Queens. Richard shuffles out of the subway station, his cheap coat barely shielding the biting wind. His once polished shoes, gleaming under Aurelius's lights, are cracked, soaked from leaking awnings. He tucks his hands in his pockets, walking a trash-strewn street, the air thick with old grease from food carts. He stops at a small newsstand, its rusted tin roof under a dim fluorescent bulb. The elderly vendor nods, offering a fresh Forbes magazine. Richard reaches out, touching the cover. He freezes. It's Evelyn. She stands on the Davenport Tower balcony, Manhattan's skyline, a diamond tapestry behind her. Her hair is neat, eyes blazing, hand on her pregnant belly. The headline screams, Evelyn Davenport's coronation, hospitality's new queen. Richard grips the magazine, fingers crumpling the edges. He flips it open, each page a knife to his mind. The article details her transformation of Davenport hospitality, her signed deals, her lauded green initiatives, even grudging praise from rivals. Every line sings her glory. Then he reaches the final paragraph. After a quiet divorce, Miss Davenport pours her heart into her children and career, proving a new chapter can be the most valuable. Quiet divorce. Richard lets out a hoarse, choked laugh. Quiet? He glances around, as if the city mocks him. He exposed, ejected from Aurelius before hundreds of eyes. In Evelyn's story, he's not even a villain, just a footnote, erased, a name lost. He drops the magazine. It lands in a rain-soaked puddle, Evelyn's triumphant face rippling in the water. He stares, her eyes seeming to meet his not with hatred, not with anger, but with cold indifference. That feels crueler than revenge. Richard wanders through the night, legs aching. He collapses on a park bench, darkness enveloping him, streetlights flickering. He recalls every moment at Aurelius. Candles, crystals, Evelyn's eyes, the divorce papers. Now, it's not a nightmare, it's reality. A reality he can't escape. In his mind, he hears Evelyn's heels clicking in the dining room, the violin's sharp notes, her final words, "You're sitting in the wrong seat." She was right. His whole life, he sat in the wrong seat. He thought he was king, but the throne was never his. He tilts his head back, staring at a gray sky. No crystal light, no champagne and flutes, just cold wind, distant sirens, and a broken man shivering in a city that no longer knows his name. In that moment, he knows, Evelyn didn't just exact revenge, she erased him from history. The story now belongs to her, and the world will remember Evelyn Davenport as a queen, while Richard Ellison fades, a shadow, too faint to recall. Manhattan pulses on, sleepless. Two parallel worlds unfold in one night, one radiant, one desolate. On the east side, the Davenport Tower shines like a lighthouse. On its top floor, a grand ballroom hosts the company's 60th anniversary gala. Politicians, Hollywood stars, billionaires, and global media jostle to capture every moment. Chandeliers explode with light. Champagne flows like a golden stream. Evelyn descends the main staircase in a midnight blue gown shimmering with silver, her hair swept high, eyes blazing. Her pregnancy, subtly veiled, only enhances her mythic aura, a queen building a future while carrying new life. As she enters, the room rises, applause thundering like a victory march. She raises a non-alcoholic champagne flute, her voice resounding. Davenport hospitality isn't just celebrating 60 years of the past. We're celebrating the start of the next 60. This isn't just my father's legacy. It's the future for all of us. Camera flashes erupt. The press dubs her hospitality's global queen. Number Evelyn Davenport floods social media. Every smile, every step, is captured and broadcast worldwide. Meanwhile, miles away in Queens, Richard Ellison sits in a dingy bar, neon lights flickering. Before him, a cheap whiskey burns his throat with its harsh bite. He wears a worn shirt, no watch on his wrist, no cufflinks on his sleeves. Beside him, strangers' raucous laughter drowns out the tinny rock music from a distorted speaker. On the wall-mounted TV, a live feed from the Davenport Gala plays. The camera pans to Evelyn, radiant, regal. Richard freezes. The bar's patrons cheer as her name flashes on screen, not because they know her, but because they admire the icon she's become. He bows his head, draining his glass. For a moment, he wonders if anyone at that glittering gala remembers him. A decade ago, he was a fixture at such events. Now, he's a nobody in a bar reeking of stale tobacco. The broadcast shifts to a massive screen at the gala, a video of the company's 60-year journey. Early hotels, milestones, and finally, Evelyn on the Davenport Tower balcony, hand on her belly, gazing at the city. The ticker reads, "The future belongs to her." Richard's blood surges. He knows that look, the eyes that once met his over breakfast, that saw him off on fake business trips. He called them dull, harmless, but they were the eyes of someone patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In one world, Evelyn raises her glass, the ballroom chanting her name. In the other, Richard hurls his glass to the floor, shards scattering, the sound lost in the bar's din. No one looks his way. No one cares. In these opposing worlds, a woman ascends a radiant throne, while a man slides into an anonymous abyss. Manhattan still shines, but for Richard, it's just a gray brick wall pressing down. Evelyn has entered history. Richard has been erased from it. Late afternoon, the day's final light floods the city like molten fire across the sky. Manhattan glows in gold, but in Richard Ellison's cheap Queens apartment, light barely seeps through a tiny window, casting a bleak glow on a gray brick wall. He sits on a wooden chair, back hunched, eyes lost in emptiness. On the table, crumpled papers pile up, debt notices, unpaid bills, a contract from Apex Solutions, the small firm he can't call a career. By day, he inputs data in a cramped room, monitored by a boss younger and less experienced. Each night, he returns to this musty apartment, drinking cheap whiskey until sleep takes him. Outside the window, the city hums, but to him, it's a towering, cold wall with no way back. Across the river, at the Davenport Tower's peak, Evelyn hosts an international press conference. Reporters crowd, microphones thrust forward. Her pregnant belly is prominent, but her eyes are sharp, her voice commanding. Davenport Hospitality will be the world's first carbon-neutral hotel chain. This isn't just a promise, it's a mission. The room erupts in applause. Number Evelyn Davenport trends globally. On the massive screen, the ED logo blazes, a permanent mark of her new dynasty. In Queens, Richard flips on his old TV, her image crystal clear, no static. He sees Evelyn, not the quiet wife who folded his shirts, but a global queen. In that moment, he knows. History has been rewritten, and he has no place in it. He shuts off the TV, the screen black, reflecting his haggard face, red-rimmed eyes. In the dark, he sees himself, not the Richard Ellison of old, but a stranger, aged, lost. A ghost wandering a city that once knelt at his feet. He rises, stepping to the window. The sunset paints Manhattan red. The Davenport Tower stands tall, a golden spear piercing the sky. Richard gazes, feeling like he's staring at a lost kingdom. A kingdom never truly his. Sirens wail, children laugh below, all alien to him. In his mind, he hears Evelyn's heels in Aurelius's dining room, the gala's applause, the crowd chanting her name. And he knows, his name is gone. From boardrooms, from headlines, from high society's memory. He's no longer a king, just a dethroned man, left in darkness. Evelyn, meanwhile, cradles her newborn as the press conference ends. Flashes flare, but she smiles softly at her child. A new beginning, not just for the company, but for her life. Above, daylight fades, city lights igniting. A new dawn awaits Evelyn each day, each triumph, each accolade. But for Richard, this sunset never ends. He'll live on, yes, but as a shadow, a name scratched from the story, a man who touched the light, unaware it was never his. And now, an eternal dusk engulfs Richard Ellison. Richard Ellison thought he was the king of the universe, but in one moment, that world crumbled beneath him. The woman he dismissed, pushed to the margins, held all the keys. Evelyn didn't need to scream or seek bloody revenge. She simply rose at the right moment, and the world bowed. This story reminds us that silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes, it's waiting. The person you overlook today might rewrite history tomorrow. And arrogance, in the end, is the cruelest sentence for anyone. But the question lingers. Is this truly the end for Richard, or does he have one desperate move left? Let me know in the comments. Do you think Richard deserves a chance at redemption, or should he stay buried in darkness? If you want to follow this saga of power and revenge, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. The story isn't over yet. My God, can you imagine a wealthy husband steps onto the stage, flashing a smile as if he's dispensing family values to the entire city. Then, in a split second, he tears the dress of his 8-month pregnant wife. The sound of silk ripping echoes. Camera flashes explode, and under the gaze of 300 powerful guests, her water breaks, spilling onto the marble floor. But what shocked everyone even more was when Victoria, with ragged breaths, raised her head, pointed, and named the mistress her husband had hidden for so long. This wasn't just a moment of collapse, it was the moment a woman reclaimed her voice, and you'll want to know exactly what happened next. The clink of crystal glasses reverberates through the marble-floored bedroom. The sound is so crisp it sends a shiver down Victoria's skin. She stands motionless before the full-length mirror. Soft golden light from the chandelier spills over the navy silk dress hugging her 8-month pregnant belly. The haute couture gown, worth more than most people's cars, strains at her hips. It accentuates her soft curves but also exposes the weight she carries. With every kick from the baby inside, the delicate stitches seem to whisper how fragile this beauty is. Behind her, the walnut wardrobe door sits ajar. Richard, her husband, adjusts his black bow tie in a small mirror. He moves like an actor rehearsed for the starring role in tonight's performance. At 45, his frame remains trim. His charm blends old money with new ambition. One glance, and Richard can command a room. But that room has never truly had space for Victoria, despite her title as the wife of the real estate tycoon. Around her neck, a diamond necklace rests cold as a shackle. He fastened it minutes ago. His fingers lingered longer than necessary, a gesture outsiders might mistake for affection. To Victoria, it's a reminder, you're part of the image I've built. She's heard him say it countless times, shine, be grateful, don't embarrass me. In the mirror, she catches her reflection. Pale blue eyes tinged with exhaustion, lips drained of color, skin glowing not just from pregnancy, but from fatigue. Still beautiful, still useful, but no longer the woman who once dreamed of backpacking adventures or passionate art exhibitions. The gallery manager from years ago has vanished. In her place is Mrs. Hammond, painted, polished, displayed like a piece in her husband's power collection. The baby rolls hard within her, as if trying to break free from the silk confines. Victoria places a hand on her belly, soothing it. She knows that feeling better than anyone, trapped in a lavish but suffocating space, where even breathing feels rushed. The unborn child seems to sense the tension filling the mansion. It hums between glossy walls that are as cold as they are grand. Richard's phone buzzes on the table. He glances at the screen. A fleeting smile crosses his face, so quick it's almost non-existent. Then his expression hardens again. His thumb taps out a quick reply. The phone slides back into his tuxedo pocket as if nothing happened. Victoria sees it all in the mirror. A chill runs down her spine. He's always busy, always fielding work calls and texts. But why was that smile so different? She turns, opening her small silver clutch. Inside, lipstick, mints, a few pre-written introduction cards. Richard prepared short phrases for her to memorize in case anyone asks about the family's charity. Her fingers brush her phone. She locks it, unlocks it, locks it again. A habit turned reflex. Born the day she found a strange coral-colored lipstick in his car, a shade she'd never touched. Outside, the limousine waits. Tonight, the city will see Richard Hammond as the model husband, future father, generous philanthropist. And Victoria, though her chest trembles with nameless dread, will step out as his decorative armpiece, a gleaming jewel atop his crown of power. She takes a deep breath, forcing her shoulders back and chin up. She knows how to play the part. 6 years have made her a master of it, but a thought creeps in like a crack in crystal. If this golden cage is truly a prison, could tonight be the night it begins to shatter? Golden light from the massive chandelier rains down on the hotel's grand foyer. It reflects off the polished marble floor. The limousine door opens. Victoria steps out, her hand resting on her belly as if shielding it or anchoring herself. The November air is crisp, laced with the faint scent of expensive perfume drifting from the line of arriving guests. The revolving glass doors part into another world, a sea of glittering jewels and fine fabrics, laughter mingling with the soft hum of string music, all blending into the soundtrack of tonight's performance. Beside her, Richard moves like a shark in its waters, striding with confidence. He nods to a few politicians, grips the hands of tycoons. His smile is warm, but his eyes calculate, as if rearranging the room in his mind. Then Victoria sees her, Elena Cartwright. Her auburn hair glows under the chandelier, a flame lit to draw every eye. She stands near the registration table, leaning toward the event coordinator. Her clear voice carries a confident cadence, loud enough to blend with the background music. Her radiant smile, graceful gestures, every movement signals she belongs in spaces of power like this. Victoria freezes for a moment. The chill down her spine isn't from the draft at the door, but from a certainty rising in her gut. Elena is no random guest. She owns this space, as if this event, this ballroom, this audience belongs to her. Richard strides forward. A smile flickers on his lips. Just work, he'd said when Elena's name first crossed his tongue. But the slight curl of his mouth tonight isn't for an ordinary colleague. Elena turns. Her sharp gray eyes land on Victoria, then slide to Richard, lingering a beat too long. Her smile widens, professional, charming, but with something more. A spark too subtle to name, but a wife's instinct catches it instantly. Victoria adjusts her dress. The silk suddenly feels heavy. The baby shifts, pressing hard against her ribs, making her wince. The pain mixes with the prickle of witnessing that exchanged glance, a look shared by two people with a private language, a code needing no words. Cameras flash incessantly. A few society reporters jostle to capture the happy Hammond family. Victoria forces herself into the rehearsed pose. Her hand rests lightly on her belly, her smile just wide enough to hide the strain. But beneath it, her heart beats too fast. As they draw closer, Elena leans forward in greeting. Her congratulations sound sweet, but her eyes never leave Richard. Her red lips press together briefly, as if signaling something meant only for him. And Richard, however well he hides it, can't stop the glint in his eyes, a mix of satisfaction and possession. Victoria breathes deeply. Her belly tightens faintly. It's unclear if it's the baby or the fear gripping her mind. In that moment, she knows. Elena isn't just a colleague. Her presence is a public challenge, a reminder that Victoria's role, wife, future mother, Richard's accessory, could crumble at any moment. Amid the music and laughter, Victoria feels adrift. They see her as a symbol of opulence, but no one notices the tremble in the hand hidden behind her glittering clutch. And across the room, Elena smiles again, wider, sharper, as if she's just won a game Victoria didn't know she'd been drawn into. The quartet's music flows like smooth silk across the ballroom. White roses and lilies tower in crystal vases. Their sweet scent fills the air but chokes Victoria, as if the fragrance has stolen the oxygen from her lungs. Guests cluster in small groups, their chatter and laughter ripple like waves. Richard slips into the rhythm, effortlessly shaking hands, patting shoulders, offering practiced smiles. Victoria stays by his side, keeping the right distance, playing the accompanying wife. She offers a gentle smile when eyes turn her way. Then a voice cuts through, sharp as a blade slicing the soft hum around her. Victoria, Margaret Hammond, Richard's mother, approaches. At 68, she stands ramrod straight, her steel-cold eyes unyielding. Her cream Chanel suit hugs her frame, a pearl necklace gleams under the lights, and gemstones on her fingers could buy a suburban house. Victoria leans in for the perfunctory cheek kiss, but feels only calculated chill in the gesture. Margaret's eyes scan her from head to toe, lingering on the swollen belly beneath the silk. "You look full tonight." Her voice is both compliment and cut. "Though, that dress is perhaps a bit tight around the middle, don't you think?" Victoria nods slightly, forcing a smile. "Thank you, Margaret. You look stunning, as always." Margaret's expression doesn't shift. Her eyes flick to Victoria's belly again, then back to her face, icy. "I sincerely hope you're not planning to make a scene tonight. People are here to be reminded of family values, not the overly biological aspects." The words land like a scalpel, sharp, precise, slicing deep without drawing visible blood. That's Margaret's art, wounding with perfect, deniable strikes. Victoria keeps her breathing steady, her chest feels tight. "I'll do my best to restrain myself." Her voice is calm, almost foreign to her own ears. Beside her, Richard pays no attention to the exchange. His eyes scan for key players to connect with. To him, this is a battlefield, a stage to solidify his status. To Victoria, it's a courtroom, where every glance could become an indictment. Margaret's gaze shifts to Richard. Her lips curve into a proud smile as she watches her son surrounded by powerful men. But when she turns back to Victoria, the smile vanishes, revealing unmasked disdain. "You know," she says softly, just for Victoria's ears, "no one will remember who wore what tonight, but they'll remember who shamed their family. Don't be that person, darling." The word darling drips like sugar-coated venom. Victoria's legs tremble slightly, not from pregnancy, but from the weight of those words. For 6 years, she's lived in this woman's shadow, learning to absorb these sweet stabs as part of the role. But tonight, her belly tightens. The baby stirs relentlessly, as if reacting to the suffocating tension. Around them, laughter rings. Music flows gently. No one sees the silent duel at the ballroom's heart. No screams, no blows, just eyes and words. And in that duel, Victoria is always the one who loses. Margaret glides away, leaving a trail of heavy perfume. Victoria stands still, her smile fixed but her hand on her belly gripping tighter. The women's restroom door closes behind Victoria with a soft click, muffling the ballroom's din. The space falls silent. Only the drip of a gold-plated faucet and the lavender scent from a diffuser remain. The room is designed as a haven, floor-to-ceiling mirrors, Carrara marble sinks, neatly folded hand towels in silver trays. But to Victoria, it feels cold and lifeless as a cell. She leans against a sink, her hand on her belly. The baby shifts again, a gentle nudge, as if saying, "You're not alone." Victoria breathes deeply, calming her racing heart. In the mirror, she's not the radiant Mrs. Hammond who walked the red carpet. She's a tired woman, her eyes heavy with unanswered questions. She touches the phone in her clutch. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock. An anxious rhythm she can't stop. The dark screen shows no messages, no calls. A loneliness creeps in, as if the world outside has been severed. The click of heels echoes from the hall. The door swings open. Two women enter, their voices carrying the breath of the outside world. They don't notice Victoria behind the slightly ajar stall door. "Have you seen Richard Hammond's wife tonight?" the first says, her voice high and crisp as clinking crystal. "She looks exhausted, poor thing." The other laughs softly. "Poor thing? Pregnant at her age. With a man like Richard, that's a challenge. Honestly, I'm surprised she's still holding up." Victoria's heart pounds. At her age, she's only 32, yet their words age her into obsolescence. The first woman continues, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "But he's notorious, isn't he? Once a cheater, always a cheater. Men like Richard don't change." A pause. Then the second whispers, "You think she knows?" "She knows. Wives always know last." The words hit like a hammer. Victoria's legs shake. Her hands grip the marble sink. For a moment, the room spins. Those words aren't just idle gossip. They're confirmation proof from strangers' mouths that her suspicions are real. The women wash their hands, laugh lightly, reapply lipstick, and leave. Their heels fade. The door shuts. The silence returns, heavier than the noise outside. Victoria slowly opens the stall door. In the mirror, she faces herself again. Her eyes are red. The flawless makeup can't hide the hurt. In that moment, she no longer sees a wife in a lavish gown. She sees a woman trapped in a lie, reduced to a supporting role in her own life. The baby stirs hard, making her gasp. Victoria places both hands on her belly, whispering in her mind, "I know. I heard, and I'm not blind anymore." She wipes her eyes with a tissue, adjusts her dress, grips her clutch tightly. As she steps out of the restroom, the music and laughter crash over her like a wave. The world outside sparkles, celebrates, lies as if no cracks exist. But inside Victoria, a crack has formed, and she knows it will only grow wider. Dinner has begun. Bone china plates reflect the chandelier's glow. Crystal glasses hum as guests raise toasts. The scent of wine mingles with roasted meat and rich butter sauce. But to Victoria, it all feels alien. She sits beside Richard, smiling when introduced, nodding when the family's generous donation is mentioned. While Richard navigates conversation with his trademark charm, Victoria feels her clutch vibrate. A notification lights the phone screen. A recent charge from a high-end downtown restaurant, a place Richard once took her. But last night, he said he was working late. Her chest tightens. The picture grows clearer. She remembers. The coral lipstick in his car, one she never used. He laughed it off, said a colleague dropped it while carpooling. She wanted to believe him. Then the white gold earring on the guest bathroom sink. Elena had visited for a urgent work weekend. When Victoria asked, Richard said Elena felt faint, washed her face, must have lost the earring. A tidy excuse. Too tidy. Now, this restaurant bill is the final piece, a piece that leaves no room for naivety. The baby rolls fiercely, as if mirroring her racing pulse. Victoria presses a hand to her belly, calming both of them. But inside, a wave builds powerful, dangerous. Laughter erupts across the table. Elena. She's tilting her head, chatting with a bank executive. Her eyes flick to Richard like a secret punctuation mark. When she catches Victoria's gaze, Elena raises her glass in a toast too polite, too graceful, but laced with defiance. Victoria looks away, hiding her tremble. Outwardly, she's flawless. Hair perfectly up, diamonds sparkling, posture impeccable. But inside, she sees it clearer than ever. The silk dress, the diamonds, the lavish table, all props in a play where her happy wife role has become a suffocating mask. Dr. Patterson, seated beside her, leans in softly. "Are you all right, Mrs. Hammond? You look a bit pale." Victoria smiles faintly, her voice steady. "Just an active baby tonight." The response draws polite chuckles from the table, but Victoria knows only she understands. The restlessness in her belly isn't just the child, it's the truth breaking free. Piece by piece, Richard leans toward her, whispering as if reminding, "Shine, darling. This is our moment to impress." His tone is warm to outsiders, but to Victoria, it's a cold command. She looks at him. The chandelier's light dances on the face that once captivated her. 6 years ago, she believed those eyes promised a future. Now, those same eyes hide a secret, a relationship, a betrayal, a plan with no place for her. In her mind, fragmented memories piece together. Nights Richard was absent, texts he hid, smiles that flashed when he checked his phone. They fit like a giant puzzle. And at its center, Elena, with her fiery hair and haughty gaze. Victoria sets her napkin on her lap, keeping her smile. But in her eyes, a new clarity sparks. The music shifts. The quartet trades gentle background notes for a classic waltz, resonating through the ballroom. The chandelier blazes. Its light bounces off gowns and tuxedos, turning everyone into glittering chess pieces in a silent game. Richard stands, his smile flawless, extending a hand to Victoria. To the guests, it's the ideal image. A gallant husband inviting his 8-month pregnant wife to share a moment on the dance floor. To Victoria, it's a command veiled as tenderness. "Just one dance," he whispers, low enough to be private, cold enough for her to feel. Everyone's watching. She places her trembling hand in his. He leads her to the floor. Polite applause ripples from nearby tables. The spotlight swings, catching their faces, as if verifying the perfection Richard wants to display. He places a hand on her back, careful to avoid her belly. The other lifts her small hand high. They sway to the rhythm, their steps restrained. Simple, enough to satisfy the audience. From the outside, they're the perfect couple, the successful man, the radiant pregnant wife. But inside, Victoria feels the cold gaps between them. Richard's eyes don't linger on her for more than 3 seconds. They glide past her shoulder, touching other powerful faces, and then, unmistakably, landing on Elena. Elena stands at the dance floor's edge, wineglass in hand. The light catches her red hair, igniting it like a flame. She doesn't hide her smile. When Richard's gaze finds her, she tilts her head slightly. Her lips curve in a private greeting. Victoria feels his hand tighten not with affection, but as a warning. She looks into his eyes, but all she sees is a wall. "She's very ambitious," Victoria says softly, her voice barely a breath. Richard leans down, lips smiling but voice cold. "Ambition is what I respect in a partner." "A partner?" The question slips out before she can stop it. Richard misses a step, then adjusts, his smile glued on. "Don't be paranoid, Victoria. Pregnancy hormones make women imagine things." The words cut like an invisible blade. He turns her valid doubts into a delusion, forcing her to question her own mind. How many times has he done this? How many times has he silenced her fears with sweet, venomous dismissals? Victoria presses her lips together, following the rhythm. The silk dress brushes the wooden floor. Her pregnant belly hinders smooth moves. But the body's awkwardness doesn't hurt as much as the heart's. Around them, other couples twirl, sharing intimate smiles. Giggles rise when someone missteps. Soft whispers float from those truly in love. For them, this dance is joy. For Victoria, it's a performance. Each turn brings her eyes to Elena still there, wineglass swaying lightly, lips curved as if savoring the entire show. Each glance is another mirror, reflecting the truth Richard wants to hide. The song ends. Applause rises. Richard releases her hand faster than needed, stepping back with a formal bow. His smile dazzles, but his eyes are elsewhere. Victoria stands still, her hand instinctively on her belly. Under the glaring chandelier, she sees the cruel truth. The man playing husband in this dance is no longer a partner, but merely a co-star. And this ballroom, this dance floor, is just a stage for liars. Dessert arrives, small plates dusted with powdered sugar and fresh fruit, arranged like art. Around the table, guests chatter about European vacations, seaside estates, massive investments. Richard is the center, his voice confident, steering the conversation with seamless charm. His phone buzzes in his jacket. He glances at the screen. His face shifts, a spark in his eyes, then back to calm. He leans toward Victoria, his voice low, rehearsed as an excuse. I need to take this call. Peterson's changing the schedule. Without waiting for a response, Richard stands, his professional smile intact. He excuses himself from the table, retreating with the air of a man busy with success. Victoria watches him. Her heart races. Minutes later, at a distant table, Elena rises too. She nods politely to her dinner companions, a smile flickering, then glides out with graceful steps. The timing is too perfect, too deliberate to be chance. Victoria sits rigid, her silver fork hovering. In her mind, the pieces lock tighter. Lipstick, earring, restaurant bill. And now a secret call. The baby stirs, a sharp kick making her gasp. She presses a hand to her belly, soothing her child and seeking an anchor for herself. Through the ballroom's large glass doors, Victoria spots Richard's silhouette in the hotel lobby. He's not on the phone. He stands close to Elena. His tall frame partially blocks her, but their eyes say enough. He touches her arm, a small, brief gesture, but too intimate for business. Elena tilts her head, a half smile playing, as if their conversation holds secrets only they share. Victoria's breath catches. The chatter around her fades. Only the image of them remains, vivid as a slow-motion scene. When Richard returns 10 minutes later, his bow tie is slightly askew, his hair mussed, but his smile is ready. He sinks into his chair with ease, raising his glass as if nothing happened. Elena's back too, someone whispers from a nearby table. She's such a hard worker, discussing business even at a gala. The comment makes Victoria want to laugh, but her throat tastes bitter. Business. The word is a flimsy curtain, yet thick enough for the room to nod along. Only she, the wife, the mother of the unborn child, is left in the dark. Richard leans in, his hand possessively on her back, his voice low and firm. Don't make that face. This is an important night. People are watching. Victoria smiles. A perfect, practiced smile, forged over years by his side. But in her eyes, a small flame ignites a flame of awakening. She realizes Richard hasn't just betrayed her. He's made her an unwilling accomplice, forcing her to play the perfect wife to mask his blatant infidelity. And tonight, before 300 people, she feels that curtain growing thinner. The music plays again, but to Victoria, every melody feels foreign. The violin's wail blends with laughter rippling through the ballroom, as if the world moves on without her breath. The pain in her lower back returns, more persistent. She grips her napkin, keeping her face composed. A gentle smile stays in place, but beneath the mask, her body signals warnings. Richard is engrossed, recounting a real estate deal. His hands gesture for emphasis, his eyes scanning partners like a puppeteer commanding an audience. When a guest asks about the new project, he says "we" smoothly, but Victoria knows that "we" never included her. Elena sits a few tables away, her presence like ink bleeding across white cloth. Her eyes occasionally drift to Richard, her lips curving in a private smile, as if reminding everyone she knows more than they do. Victoria sips water, hoping to ease her dry throat. But as she sets the glass down, she catches Margaret Hammond, her mother-in-law, watching from a nearby table. Margaret's eyes hold unmasked judgment, waiting for a slip to fuel tomorrow's gossip. The baby kicks again, hard and insistent, as if protesting the tense air. Victoria gasps softly, her hand instinctively on her belly. A woman beside her leans in, concerned. Are you all right? Victoria forces a smile. I think the baby's just active. Polite laughter ripples around the table, but the eyes are more probing. She feels their stares, the whispers behind wine glasses. And in that moment, she knows. Her mask is cracking. She recalls yesterday afternoon, when the doctor called about test results needing further monitoring. The nurse's voice was cautious. Victoria hid it from Richard, not wanting to burden his demand for perfection. But now, these unusual pains can't be ignored. Richard glances over, his smile fixed, whispering through clenched teeth. "Stay calm. You're drawing unnecessary attention." The warning's short, sharp chokes her. He doesn't ask if she's okay. He only fears her breaking his perfect image. Victoria breathes deeply, rising from her chair. "Excuse me, I need the restroom." She moves through the ballroom. Her heels glide on the polished wood floor. Every step is watched. She hears faint murmurs. She looks tired. Is something wrong? Poor thing. In the hallway mirror, her reflection is clear. Hair still neatly up, diamonds dazzling, silk dress flawless. But her eyes betray the strain, a thin, deep crack anyone looking closely would see. She leans against the marble wall, hands cradling her belly, the ballroom's laughter fading. She knows she can't wear this mask forever. Not with her body screaming, not with her heart breaking piece by piece. The ballroom buzzes with laughter, clinking crystal, and elegant background music. But beneath the warm golden chandelier light, Victoria feels a chill creep in, like a stray breeze through a cracked door. She returns to the table, sitting beside Richard. Her face resets with a practiced smile. He's still engrossed, his gestures lively, never missing a chance to impress. To outsiders, he's success incarnate. To Victoria, his polish is like lacquer over rotting wood. As she tries to focus on her dessert, fragmented sounds reach her. Whispers not loud enough to be public, but sharp enough to pierce her mind. "Seen Richard with Elena yet?" "Not the first time, trust me. His wife, poor thing. But she must know." Victoria freezes. The words are tiny needles, pricking the fragile shell she's built. She doesn't dare turn, afraid her eyes will betray what her ears caught. A soft laugh sounds behind her. "He's clever, isn't he? Choosing a business partner as the perfect cover." "Clever or reckless?" Another voice replies. "Tonight, everyone's seen it." Victoria lifts her glass, but her trembling hand spills water over the rim. She sets it down, her fingers clutching the napkin in her lap. Everyone's seen it. So, she's no longer the silent doubter. The secret has leaked. This ballroom is becoming a theater where the play is unraveling. Her eyes drift to Richard. He's still smiling. The chandelier's light casts a false halo on his face. But as he leans toward Elena's table, Victoria catches a fleeting moment. Familiarity in their glances, a shared ease in their smiles. Something no one can hide for long. The baby shifts again, her body reacting with short, tightening spasms, making breathing heavy. She presses a hand to her belly, hiding the gesture behind the white tablecloth. At another table, a middle-aged woman whispers to her husband, her voice reaching Victoria like another blade. Why does she bother keeping up appearances? The whole city knows about Richard and Elena. Her husband shrugs. The wife is always the last to know. The words "twice tonight" hit like a hammer to her chest. She recalls the restroom whispers, Elena's smug smile, and now, confirmation from strangers' mouths. She suddenly feels displayed not as a woman in fine silk, but as the lead in a public tragedy. They no longer look at her with admiration. They look with pity and curiosity. Victoria takes a long breath, lifting her head. Her eyes meet Elena's again. This time, Elena doesn't smile. Her gaze is calm, certain, as if there's nothing left to hide, as if the game has gone too far to turn back. Richard places a hand on Victoria's back, the familiar pressure, his voice a whispered command. "Smile. You're showing weakness." Victoria obeys. Her lips curve into a perfect smile. But inside, she feels the mask crack further. And this time, the crack can't be mended. 3 sharp taps of a spoon against crystal silence the room. All eyes turn to the podium, where Richard Hammond strides up like a general on a familiar battlefield. His tuxedo fits perfectly, his black bow tie pristine. He stands under the chandelier, his face radiant, his voice steady as a vow. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice stretches across the ballroom, warm, confident. Each word is calculated, striking the audience's hearts like a conductor leading an invisible orchestra. Victoria sits at the main table, hands on her belly, listening to every word. To the room, he's the devoted husband, future father, golden-hearted philanthropist. To her, his words ring hollow. She's heard him rehearse them all week, practicing in front of a mirror, perfecting every inflection. Her belly tightens. A sharp pain shoots down her spine, making her lean slightly, lips pressed tight. Outwardly, she smiles. Inwardly, an undeniable truth forms. The baby won't wait much longer. Applause erupts as Richard announces the Hammond family pediatric wing. He spreads his arms. The spotlight follows, then turns to invite Victoria to his side. She rises, stepping up under hundreds of eyes. The navy silk dress clings to her belly. Each fold strains under the pressure of a body nearing labor. She keeps her posture straight, her smile practiced, but sweat beads on her temples. Richard drapes an arm over her shoulder, the pressure firmer than its tender appearance. "Smile," he whispers, teeth clenched. Cameras flash. Perfect moments are captured, destined for tomorrow's society pages. But in that instant, fate pulls the rug from under them. As Richard turns, Victoria's beaded sleeve catches on his diamond cufflink. A loud rip tears through the air, drowning the background music. The room holds its breath. The tear runs from her shoulder to her hip, exposing her rounded belly and the thin fabric beneath. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Flashes intensify, not with admiration, but with curiosity, horror. Victoria freezes. One hand clutches the dress, the other grips Richard's arm. But before she can steady herself, a warm rush flows down her legs. Her water breaks, pooling on the marble floor under the blinding light. Whispers turn to murmurs, swirling like a whirlwind. She's gone into labor. At the gala? My God, unbelievable. Richard steps back instinctively, his eyes wide not with concern for his wife, but with fear of the public disaster staining his name. He scans the room, searching for an escape, like an actor without a script. Victoria breathes heavily, her legs trembling. But in that moment of utter vulnerability, she lifts her head. Before her is a stunned crowd. Beside her, the husband who tore her dress and her trust. And in the distance, Elena Cartwright, the red-haired woman, stands still, her satisfied smile watching the curtain fall. Every whisper, every crack, every doubt now merges into a truth laid bare before all. Victoria opens her mouth, her voice hoarse but clear enough for the room. "You want to know who's been by Richard's side, even while I'm carrying his child?" The spotlight hits her face. The room falls silent. Her eyes lock on Elena. Each word cuts the stifling air like a blade. It's her. For a moment, the opulent ballroom becomes a public courtroom. No more soft strings, no more polite smiles. All eyes turn to Richard Hammond, the man just hailed as a family icon. He stands there, bow tie askew, face flushed, his wineglass trembling in his tight grip. The polished words he spoke now mock him cruelly. "She's delusional," Richard stammers, his voice straining for calm but quivering. "Just pregnancy stress." But the crowd no longer buys the gloss. They heard the name too clearly. Elena Cartwright, the red-haired woman, stands frozen steps away. Her polite smile falters under the weight of hundreds of eyes stripping her bare. A few guests murmur, "He called his wife delusional? And Elena, why is she so close?" Margaret Hammond, Victoria's mother-in-law, strides forward. Her face is steel. "Richard," she hisses, "control this. Now." But her urgency only exposes the truth. Richard's throne is trembling. Victoria, in her torn dress, stands tall. Her breaths are ragged. Tears streak her face. But her voice doesn't waver. "Enough, Richard. They deserve to know. I deserve to know." Cameras flash again. These aren't shots of admiration, they're evidence of a downfall. Richard steps forward, raising a hand as if to pull Victoria off the stage. But Thomas, his teenage son, rushes forward, standing between his stepmother and father. His eyes blaze with a fury never seen before. "Enough, Dad," Thomas shouts, his voice breaking through the room. "She needs a hospital, not your lies." A terrible silence falls. A teenager has just defied the powerful man before 300 elite guests. Richard's face twists. Rage tears through his polished mask. He clenches his fist, veins bulging. "You don't know what you're saying, Thomas. Sit down." But the boy doesn't budge. His hand rests protectively on Victoria's shoulder. A vow. "If you won't act, I will." In the crowd, murmurs become a wave. They're falling apart. The boy's standing up to his father. My God, this is a public tragedy. Elena steps forward, perhaps to save Richard or herself. But Victoria's gaze locks onto her, a look sharp as a blade, needing no words, no proof, just undeniable truth. Elena falters. Her heels stop on the chandelier's light. Richard sees control slipping away. He turns to the room, his voice frantic, losing its calm. Please, this is a personal misunderstanding. Let's continue the evening. But no one listens. The music, the dessert, the charity auction, none matter anymore. All they see is a family shattering before their eyes. At that moment, a fierce contraction doubles Victoria over. Her sweat-soaked hands grip the podium's edge. Her gasps echo through the room, louder than her husband's heavy speech. "Call an ambulance now!" Dr. Patterson shouts from the guest table. Under the stunned gazes, Richard doesn't move. His eyes dart, calculating. Leaving with his wife now would shatter his strong image. Staying would expose his callousness. Either choice is a fall from his throne. Thomas doesn't wait. "We're going now, Mom," he says, supporting Victoria. A few guests rise to help. The scene is chaotic. A ship tilting in a storm, while Richard stands frozen, trapped between ego and truth. Cameras, phones, flashes keep firing, capturing every frame. The once invincible man is losing everything: respect, trust, family. In that moment, Victoria looks at him one last time. Her eyes are tired but blazing, as if saying without words, "Keep your throne, I'll keep my soul." The emergency room doors swing open with a heavy creak. The stretcher rolls in under harsh white neon. Victoria lies back, her blonde hair matted with sweat, eyes half open but clinging to consciousness. Urgent footsteps, doctors barking orders, all blend into a frantic symphony of life. Thomas holds her hand the entire ride to the hospital. He doesn't leave, despite nurses' requests to wait outside. "I'm staying, Mom," he whispers, and for the first time, Victoria feels she's not alone. Richard? He's absent. Not in the ambulance, not in the hospital corridor. Perhaps he's still in the ballroom, trying to patch his shattered image. Another contraction hits, arching her body. Victoria bites her lip, but through the pain, one thing is clear. This is her moment, one no one can take. Not Richard, not Elena, not the judgmental eyes at the gala. Just her, the baby, and the choice between fear or freedom. "Cervix is 8 centimeters, Dr. Mitchell announces. "We're almost there." Victoria nods faintly. In her mind, the gala replays the torn dress, the broken water, the mocking laughter, her mother-in-law's scorn, Elena's triumphant smile. Everything that held her in a golden cage is cracking. With each pain, another invisible bar breaks. Thomas grips her hand tighter. "You've got this, Mom." His eyes are more resolute than any grown man's. Victoria feels a new strength spread through her, not from others' protection, but from her own belief that she deserves to live truthfully, freely, loved. The heart monitor beeps steadily, mixing with the doctor's calls. "Push, Victoria. One more time. Harder." She channels everything into her breath, her remaining strength. Each scream isn't just for birth, it's a roar tearing through invisible chains. And then a newborn's cry pierces the air. Clear, pure, a blade cutting the tense atmosphere. Victoria collapses, tears mixing with sweat. The nurse places the tiny, wet, trembling baby on her chest. A girl. Her small hands grasp for her mother's warmth. In that moment, every humiliation, lie, and act outside dissolves. All that remains is raw truth. She is a mother. She is strength. She is the only one who can protect this child. "Welcome to the world," Victoria whispers, pressing her cheek to the soft skin. A faint but real smile breaks through, not for cameras, but for freedom. Thomas stands beside her, eyes misty. "She's beautiful," he says. And Victoria knows, though not his biological mother, he'll shield this baby as his own. In the corridor, hurried footsteps sound. Richard finally arrives, but the scene before him has no room for him. Victoria, hair disheveled, face exhausted but radiant, cradling her newborn daughter. Thomas beside her, hand on her shoulder. A new family, drawn without thrones or cages. Richard's eyes waver. He opens his mouth, but no words come. No apology, no love. Just the silence of a man realizing he's lost more than he ever imagined. Victoria doesn't look at him. She kisses her daughter's forehead, whispering like a vow. "From now on, Mom will live true." That lavish gala was meant to be one of Richard Hammond's greatest triumphs. Instead, it became proof of a false image's collapse. Before hundreds of witnesses, Victoria didn't just break her water. She shattered the chains that bound her for 6 years. Naming her husband's mistress wasn't just a shock to the room, it was a declaration. Sometimes, to find freedom, you must trade false security. Victoria lost much a marriage, a curated reputation, but in return, she gained the most precious thing, the right to be a mother in truth, not lies. The question lingers. With the spotlight on Richard now casting scorn instead of glory, will he fight back, or let his throne crumble forever? And Elena, the woman behind it all, will she retreat, or prepare a counterstrike? Share your thoughts. If you were Victoria, would you forgive or walk away? Comment below, express your feelings, and don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter of this story. The night has passed, but the darkness lingers. The man caught was just a small cog in a vast machine. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of eyes watched from hidden corners. The protagonist survived, but at the cost of his peace, forever lost. He knew he was no longer an ordinary man. He'd entered a war he didn't choose, and the enemy could be hiding in any face in the crowded city. The question was no longer, how do I escape? But, can anyone truly escape? And you, listening to this story, have you ever wondered, in the moment you feel safest, is someone watching you from the shadows? If you want to know what happens next, leave a comment, share your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Part 2 will take you to the deepest parts of the game where the line between reality and illusion vanishes.
The sting of Serena Blake's slap still burned on Elena Harper's cheek, the venom in her words, "You're nothing to him," slicing deeper than the marble floors beneath her feet. In the heart of her Miami mansion, a paradise now poisoned, betrayal coiled like a serpent, her husband's deceit laid bare by the smug smile of his mistress. Elena's chest tightened, her unborn child's sudden kick a silent cry for protection, but this was not the end. Across the city, Isabella Kane, Elena's sister, a billionaire forged in fire, was already moving, ready to turn heartbreak into a weapon. What follows is a storm of revenge and redemption. When truth finally strikes back, will you be watching? The Miami sun spilled molten gold through the soaring windows of the Harper mansion, draping its marble foyer in a warmth that lied. Beneath the glow, a chill lingered dense and electric, like thunderclouds gathering over a flawless summer sky. At the center of this gilded fortress stood Elena Harper, 6 months pregnant, her slender hand resting protectively over the swell of her belly. Each gentle kick from the life inside her was a fragile spark of hope, a whispered promise of love untouched by the world's cruelty. Soft waves of chestnut hair framed her face, but her eyes, once bright with dreams, held the muted tremor of a woman bracing for impact. For weeks, unease had shadowed her every step, a low murmur of suspicion woven through every late-night call her husband, James Harper, brushed aside with that polished, too-practiced smile. The mansion, with its polished marble, glittering chandeliers, and walls dressed in art worth fortunes, was a cathedral to James's real estate empire. Yet to Elena, its grandeur rang hollow, each gleaming surface reflecting secrets it refused to surrender. Barefoot, she paced the foyer, the marble cool beneath her toes, her thoughts circling like vultures. James had grown distant, his charm tempered by a quiet strain, his excuses too smooth. "Work's been insane, love," he'd murmur, touching her shoulder with a fleeting hand that carried no weight, no warmth. His reassurances felt like silk fraying under pressure, each thread slipping away. Then, the air snapped. A sharp, deliberate cadence of heels cut through the stillness, each click a countdown. From the grand entrance emerged Serena Blake, a vision of lethal beauty in a crimson sheath that clung like sin itself. Her raven hair flowed in silken waves, her emerald eyes sharpened to a predator's gleam. She moved as though the mansion belonged to her, each step dripping with the authority of a conqueror. Elena's breath caught, her hand instinctively tightened over her belly, as Serena's gaze found her cold, unwavering, and merciless. Without warning, Serena's hand arced through the air, landing a slap that exploded against Elena's cheek like a crack of lightning. The sound ricocheted through the marble chamber, shattering the illusion of safety. Elena stumbled back, tears blurring her vision as her palm flew to the sting, but it was the betrayal that cut deepest a wound without blood. The child within her kicked hard, as if protesting the violence, her heart pounding in sync with the rush of disbelief. Serena's lips curled, her voice a silk-wrapped blade. "You don't deserve him, darling," she hissed, venom dripping into Elena's bones. At the edge of the room, James Harper stood motionless, his face drained of color. The custom suit that once exuded dominance now hung limp, his eyes darting between the two women in silent panic. Not a word left his lips. His silence was its own confession, louder than any admission could be. Elena searched his face for the man who had once pledged her forever under Miami's stars, but found only a stranger shackled by guilt. Her voice, thin and breaking, pierced the air. "James, what is this?" His answer never came, only a flicker of shame in his eyes that burned worse than the slap. The world around her seemed to tilt. Memories of candlelit laughter, of his hand resting over hers while planning their child's nursery, fractured into dust. Serena stood unshaken, her crimson dress a flag of victory, her smirk daring Elena to rise. But Elena felt small, her pregnancy both a shield and a chain. The baby's restless kicks urged her to hold on, yet the ache in her chest asked the question she couldn't bring herself to voice. How could you let this happen? The foyer, once the threshold of her dreams, had become a battlefield. Serena's heels struck the marble once more as she turned, her silhouette a dark slash against the golden light, a promise of more devastation to come. Elena's tears fell soundlessly, each one a marker of trust betrayed. She cradled her belly, drawing strength from the heartbeat within, even as the wound of this moment festered. Somewhere deep inside, something stirred a faint, stubborn ember. But as Serena's laughter echoed down the corridor, only one question blazed hotter than the Miami sun. What secret feeds Serena's audacity? And how will Elena fight back?
The echo of Serena Blake's slap still lingered in the Harper Mansion's marble foyer, a cruel reminder of the fracture in Elena Harper's world. Humiliation seared her cheeks, hotter than the Miami sun streaming through the arched windows. Elena, 6 months pregnant, stood rooted to the spot, her hand pressed against her stinging face, the other cradling her belly where her baby's kicks pulsed like a frantic heartbeat. The golden glow of the chandelier above seemed to mock her, casting long shadows that mirrored the darkness creeping into her heart. Serena Blake, her crimson dress a defiant blaze, stood with a smirk that cut deeper than her hand ever could. Her words, sharp as glass, sliced through the air. She was James Harper's true love, his partner in a glittering fashion empire that Elena knew nothing about. Betrayal coiled around Elena's heart, tightening with every memory of James's recent distance. The late-night calls he'd brushed off as client meetings, the secretive texts he'd deleted with a casual laugh, the way his eyes no longer met hers with the warmth she once cherished, all now glared as undeniable proof of his infidelity. She remembered the night she'd lain awake, her hand on her belly, whispering dreams of their family to the child within, while James slipped away into a world she wasn't part of. His charming assurances, "It's just business." Love now rang hollow, each one a lie that crumbled her trust like sand through her fingers. Elena's gaze shifted to James, who stood at the foyer's edge, his face ashen, his tailored suit crumpled as if it bore the weight of his guilt. His eyes, usually bright with confidence, flickered with panic, darting between Elena and Serena like a man trapped in his own deceit. He opened his mouth, but no words came, only a stammering breath that betrayed his shame. Elena's heart ached, not just for the slap, but for the man she thought she knew, the one who danced with her under Miami's starlit skies, promising a future as bright as the city itself. Now that future felt like a cruel mirage, dissolving in the heat of Serena's mocking presence. Serena's laughter, sharp and taunting, filled the foyer, a sound that seemed to dance on the marble and pierce Elena's soul. She stood tall, her emerald eyes glinting with triumph, as if she'd already claimed victory in a war Elena hadn't known was raging. Her crimson dress clung to her like armor, and her manicured nails tapped rhythmically on her clutch, a predator toying with her prey. She didn't need to speak again. Her presence alone was a challenge, daring Elena to fight for a marriage that now felt like a house of cards. Elena's breath hitched, her baby kicking fiercely, as if sensing the turmoil threatening to engulf them both. The pain of betrayal was a living thing clawing at her chest, whispering doubts. Was I ever enough? Yet, beneath the anguish, a spark of defiance flickered. Elena's hand tightened on her belly, drawing strength from the life within her. She wasn't just a wife betrayed, she was a mother, carrying a child who deserved more than a broken home. Her eyes, brimming with tears, locked onto James, searching for a trace of the man who'd vowed to protect her. His silence was deafening, his pale face a canvas of guilt, offering no solace. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but her voice emerged as a trembling whisper, barely audible over the hum of the mansion's air conditioning. "How could you do this to us?" she asked, her words a plea and an accusation, hanging unanswered in the heavy air. The foyer, once a symbol of their shared dreams, now felt like a stage for a tragedy unfolding. Serena's smirk widened, her heels clicking as she stepped closer, her confidence a blade twisting in Elena's wound. James took a hesitant step forward, his hand reaching out, but he stopped short as if afraid to touch the wreckage of his betrayal. Elena's tears fell silently, each one a testament to the love she'd poured into their marriage, now shattered by secrets she hadn't seen coming. The baby's kicks grew stronger, a reminder of the future she had to protect, no matter the cost. As Serena's laughter faded into the hallway, Elena's heart burned with a single desperate question. The Miami mansion's marble foyer, still haunted by the echo of Serena Blake's slap, faded into memory as a storm brewed far across the country. In Silicon Valley, where glass towers pierced the sky, Isabella Kane sat in her sleek office, a fortress of power overlooking the tech empire she'd built. A billionaire titan at 35, her name commanded respect from Wall Street to Singapore, but her heart belonged to her younger sister, Elena Harper. When her phone buzzed, shattering the hum of late-night emails, Elena's tear-soaked voice spilled through, a sob, a confession, a plea. "She slapped me, Isabella," Elena whispered, each word a shard of glass piercing Isabella's calm. Fury ignited in her chest, a fire hotter than any Miami sun, burning away her usual restraint. Elena's pain was more than a betrayal. It was a violation of the sacred bond they'd forged through years of shared dreams and losses. Isabella's mind flashed to their childhood, to nights when she'd shielded Elena from their father's temper, promising her a world where no one could hurt her. Now, that promise lay broken, stained by Serena's cruelty and James Harper's cowardice. Isabella's fingers tightened around her phone, her manicured nails digging into her palm. Without a second thought, she canceled a critical Seattle deal, a merger worth millions, her assistant's stunned expression ignored as she strode toward her private jet. The Miami skyline beckoned, a battleground where she'd fight for her sister's honor. The jet sliced through the night, its cabin a cocoon of luxury that belied the storm within Isabella. Her mind raced, piecing together a plan to protect Elena, each thought sharp as a blade. She saw Serena's smug face, James's guilty silence, and Elena's trembling hand on her belly, guarding the life within. Isabella's wealth and power, earned through sleepless nights and ruthless deals, were now weapons in a war she hadn't chosen but would win. Her eyes, sharp as steel, stared out at the clouds, her resolve hardening with every mile. No one touched her sister, not Serena, not James, not anyone without facing a reckoning. Landing in Miami as dawn broke, Isabella emerged from the jet, her black power suit a stark contrast to the pastel hues of the city. She drove straight to the Harper mansion, her heels clicking on the same marble where Serena's cruelty had struck. The foyer, once a symbol of Elena's dreams, now felt like a crime scene, its golden chandelier casting judgmental light. Elena was upstairs, resting under a doctor's care, her fragility a knife in Isabella's heart. But first, there was James. He stood in his study, his face haggard, his eyes avoiding hers. The man who'd once charmed her into believing he'd protect Elena now looked like a shadow diminished by his own deceit. Isabella's presence filled the room, her icy gaze pinning James where he stood. His lips parted, a weak apology forming, but her stare silenced him before a word escaped. Her hand moved swiftly, delivering a calculated slap across his face. Not out of rage, but as a deliberate warning, its sting a mirror to the pain he'd allowed Elena to endure. The sound cracked through the study, a punctuation of her disgust. "You betrayed my sister," she said, her voice low, each syllable a blade honed by years of commanding boardrooms. James flinched, his hand touching his reddened cheek, but he offered no defense. His silence was an admission, a confession of his failure to shield the woman carrying his child. Isabella's mission was clear: justice for Elena. She vowed to crush anyone who dared harm her sister, starting with James's weakness and Serena's audacity. Her mind, a chessboard of strategy, already plotted the next move's legal action, public exposure, whatever it took to restore Elena's dignity. She thought of Elena's tearful call, the tremor in her voice, and the baby who deserved a world free of betrayal. Isabella's wealth could buy empires, but her love for Elena was priceless, a force that no amount of money could rival. As she left James trembling in his study, her heels echoing with purpose, the mansion seemed to brace for the storm she'd unleash. The Miami sunrise painted the sky in hues of vengeance, but Isabella's heart held a flicker of hope. Elena's strength, buried beneath her pain, would rise again, she was sure of it. Yet, as she climbed the grand staircase to her sister's side, one question loomed, sharp and unyielding. The Miami sunrise had barely faded when Isabella Kane stepped into the Harper Mansion's opulent living room, its crystal chandeliers glinting like stars trapped in glass. The air crackled with tension, a battlefield primed for war, as the echo of her calculated slap to James Harper still lingered in the marble halls. Isabella's mission of justice burned brighter than ever, fueled by Elena's tearful call and the image of her sister's trembling hand shielding her unborn child. Now, she faced Serena Blake, the architect of Elena's pain, lounging on a velvet chaise like a queen claiming a stolen throne. Serena's crimson dress shimmered under the morning light, her taunting smirk a silent challenge that dared Isabella to strike. Serena sipped champagne from a fluted glass, her emerald eyes glinting with the confidence of someone untouchable. The living room, with its towering palms and gold-accented walls, was a stage for her audacity, as if she already owned the Harper legacy. Her manicured nails traced the rim of her glass, each movement deliberate, a predator savoring the moment before the kill. Isabella stood tall, her black power suit a stark contrast to Serena's flamboyance, her presence a storm cloud rolling over Miami's azure skies. The memory of Elena's bruised cheek and broken trust fueled her resolve, each heartbeat a vow to dismantle Serena's arrogance brick by brick. Isabella's voice, when it came, was steel wrapped in silk, cutting through the room's heavy silence. She demanded Serena leave, her words not a request, but a command forged in the boardrooms of Silicon Valley. Serena's laughter rang out, sharp and mocking, a sound that seemed to dance on the polished floors and coil around Isabella's patience. She leaned forward, her smirk widening, and hinted at a cache of scandalous photos, images of James in compromising moments, proof of a future he'd promised her. The threat hung like a guillotine, poised to sever the Harper family's reputation and drag Elena's name through the tabloid's mud. Unfazed, Isabella's eyes narrowed, her mind a chessboard where every move was calculated. She'd faced corporate sharks and market crashes. Serena's bravado was no match for her steel. With a subtle nod, she summoned her security team, led by Marcus Steele, a former Marine whose presence filled the doorway like a wall of iron. His team moved with military precision, their footsteps a drumbeat of authority as they flanked Serena. Her champagne glass trembled slightly, the first crack in her facade, but she rose with a defiant toss of her hair, her heels clicking in protest. The humiliating exit unfolded in seconds. Serena escorted out, her crimson dress a fading ember against the mansion's grandeur. As the heavy oak doors closed behind Serena, Isabella wasted no time. She contacted her legal team, filing a lawsuit against Serena for assault, her fingers flying across her phone with the precision of a general marshalling troops. The charge was only the beginning. A legal showdown loomed, one that would expose Serena's cruelty and restore Elena's dignity. Isabella envisioned the courtroom where Serena's smirk would crumble under the weight of evidence and justice. She thought of Elena, resting upstairs, her baby's kicks a fragile reminder of the future they fought for. Isabella's wealth could buy empires, but her love for her sister was a force no money could measure. Yet, Serena's parting words lingered like a dark promise, whispered as she was ushered out. This isn't over. The threat slithered into the air, a venomous thread weaving through the mansion's opulence. Isabella stood alone in the living room, the champagne glass Serena left behind glinting like a trophy of a battle not yet won. Her mind raced. Serena's confidence hinted at a deeper scheme, a web of secrets that could ensnare them all. Outside, Miami's palm trees swayed in the breeze, their shadows dancing on the walls like specters of doubt. Isabella's resolve hardened, but a flicker of unease stirred. What arsenal did Serena hold, and how far would she go to reclaim her power? The living room, once a haven of laughter and love, now felt like a chessboard where every piece was in play. Isabella's heart pounded with the weight of her vow to protect Elena, to crush Serena, to rebuild what had been broken. As she turned toward the staircase, ready to check on her sister, the morning light cast her shadow long and fierce, a warrior ready for war. But one question burned brighter than the chandeliers above, demanding an answer that could change everything. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. The Harper Mansion's opulent living room where Isabella Kane had banished Serena Blake's smirk now stood silent, its chandeliers dimmed as if mourning the innocence lost. Miami's tabloids erupted, their garish headlines splashing Serena's name across newsstands, painting the city with venomous ink. The scandal, a wildfire, consumed socialite circles, but a darker twist slithered beneath the surface, chilling the air like a shadow cast over Miami's azure waves. Isabella, her resolve a fortress unyielding, was unprepared when Detective Laura Bennett from the Miami PDK stepped into her temporary office at the Key Biscayne. The detective's eyes, sharp as flint and steel, carried a revelation that shifted the battlefield, turning Serena's audacity into a far more sinister threat. Bennett, a woman hardened by Miami's underbelly, laid out a dossier that pulsed with secrets. Serena Blake, she revealed, was no mere opportunist. She was a spider woven into a network of blackmail and illegal gambling dens, her charm a lure that had snared countless victims. Whispers tied her to mysterious disappearances, wealthy men who'd crossed her, leaving behind only questions unanswered and families broken. The words landed like a bombshell, each one a stark reminder of the danger Elena had faced. Isabella's mind flashed to her sister's trembling voice, the bruise on her cheek fading but the pain etched eternal. Serena's slap was not just personal, it was a calculated move in a game far deadlier than a deadlier game. Isabella's private investigators, a shadow network of her own, had already begun peeling back Serena's layers. Their findings painted a portrait of calculated predation. Serena targeted wealthy men, seducing their secrets, then draining their fortunes with threats of exposure. Bank records showed a trail of suspicious deposits, masked as a consulting fees, while her socialite facade hid a ledger of ruined lives. Each revelation tightened Isabella's chest tighter, her fury a silent vow to shield Elena from this predator's reach. She imagined Serena's crimson dress, once a symbol of her arrogance, now a shroud cloaking crimes that could destroy more than a marriage. Meanwhile, Serena struck back from the shadows. A venomous interview surfaced online, her voice dripping with crocodile tears, as she painted Elena Harper as a manipulative wife who'd trapped James in a loveless trap. The lies spread like poison, seeping into social media feeds and gossip columns, each word a dagger aimed at Elena's heart. Elena,
recovering in a private clinic overlooking Miami's turquoise waters, fought tears as the slander reached her. Her hand rested on her belly. Her baby's kicks her only anchor in a sea of betrayal. The clinic's sterile walls offered no comfort, only a mirror to her fragility 6 months pregnant, her dreams of family now tainted by Serena's malice. Isabella sat by Elena's bedside, her hand clasping her sister's, her billionaire poise softened by love. She saw the exhaustion in Elena's eyes, the weight of public shame pressing down on her spirit. Each lie Serena spun was a fresh wound, threatening to unravel Elena's resilience. Isabella's mind churned, plotting legal counters and public defenses, but the detective's warning echoed. Serena's network ran deep, its roots tangled in Miami's underworld. The thought of Serena's involvement in disappearances sent a chill down Isabella's spine, a rare crack in her armor. She vowed to expose Serena's crimes, not just for Elena, but for every life she'd shattered. The Key Biscayne office, a sleek command center, hummed with activity as Isabella's team sifted through evidence. Photos of Serena with shadowy figures, encrypted emails, and offshore accounts painted a damning picture. Yet, Serena's online interview, viewed by millions, gained traction, its lies fueling a narrative that painted Elena as the villain.
Isabella's wealth could buy justice, but public perception was a battlefield where money held less sway. She thought of Elena's baby, a life yet to be born, and the future they deserved, free from Serena's shadow.
The Miami skyline, glittering beyond her window, seemed to pulse with the city's secrets, daring her to uncover them. The clinic's soft beeping monitors underscored Elena's quiet strength, her hand tightening on Isabella's as a tear fell. Isabella's heart ached, but her resolve burned brighter. Serena's parting words, "This isn't over," now carried a darker weight, hinting at a plan still unfolding. The tabloids, the lies, the underworld ties, each was a piece in Serena's dangerous game. As Isabella left the clinic, the ocean breeze carried a whisper of menace, a reminder that justice was not yet won. One question loomed, sharp as the skyline's edge, demanding an answer that could unravel everything. The Miami skyline glittered like a crown of secrets, but in the shadowed heart of Key Biscayne, a trap was set to unravel them. Isabella Kane, her resolve a blade honed by fury, stood in her sleek command center, the hum of monitors echoing the pulse of her mission. The revelations of Serena Blake's dark empire blackmail, gambling dens, and whispers of disappearances had transformed the Harper Mansion's drama into a high-stakes war. Isabella, with Detective Laura Bennett, crafted a daring plan, a chess move to ensnare Serena before her lies could further wound Elena Harper, still fragile in her clinic bed. Her baby's kicks, a quiet plea for safety. The plan was audacious, a gambit born in the crucible of Isabella's love for her sister. A secluded villa on Key Biscayne, its modern glass walls reflecting the ocean's restless waves, became their stage. Hidden cameras nestled in every corner, their lenses silent sentinels ready to capture Serena's downfall. James Harper, his face etched with guilt, agreed to play the bait, his redemption a fragile thread in the tapestry of betrayal he'd woven. Isabella's eyes, sharp as the Miami dusk, met his with a warning. One misstep, and his chance for atonement would vanish. The villa's minimalist elegance belied the tension within, its air thick with the weight of impending justice. James waited in the villa's open-plan lounge, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the tremor in his hands. The ocean breeze carried a deceptive calm, but his heart pounded, each beat a reminder of the wife and child he'd failed. Serena arrived, her crimson dress a defiant flare against the villa's muted tones, her smirk as sharp as ever. Her heels clicked on the hardwood, a metronome of confidence, but her emerald eyes flickered with greed as James spoke, his voice unsteady. He offered $3 million to make her disappear, a desperate plea, cloaked as a deal. Serena's laughter, cold and predatory, sliced through the room, her demands escalating to $6 million as she flaunted a USB drive, its contents a ticking bomb of incriminating videos. Serena leaned closer, her voice a venomous whisper, claiming James as her own, her words dripping with the arrogance of someone who believed herself untouchable.
She hinted at her ties to a gambling ring, a shadowy network that thrived on fear and secrets, her confidence a mask for the empire she'd built on others' pain. Isabella, watching through a live feed in her command center, felt her blood boil, her fingers gripping the desk as Serena's admissions confirmed the detective's dossier. Each word was a nail in Serena's coffin, a confession that would dismantle her web of deceit. The trap snapped shut with surgical precision. The villa's glass doors burst open, and Detective Bennett stormed in, her badge gleaming under the chandelier's light. Her team, a swarm of authorities, surrounded Serena, whose smirk faltered, her champagne flute slipping from her hand to shatter on the floor. The USB drive, her weapon of blackmail, was seized, its contents a damning ledger of her crimes. Handcuffs clicked around her wrists, the sound a symphony of justice that echoed beyond the villa's walls. Serena's eyes, once alight with triumph, now darted in panic, her empire of deceit crumbling like sandcastles against the tide. Isabella stood in the shadows, her heart racing with the thrill of victory, but a chill lingered. Serena's final glance, as she was led away, carried a glint of defiance, a hint that her game wasn't fully played. The USB drive, now in Bennett's hands, promised answers, but also questioned secrets that could unravel more than Serena's schemes. Isabella thought of Elena, her sister's tear-streaked face in the clinic, and the baby who deserved a world free of this darkness. The Miami night, alive with stars, seemed to pulse with the promise of resolution, but also the shadow of an unseen twist. The villa, once a stage for Serena's arrogance, now stood as a monument to her defeat. James, his face a mask of shame, sank into a chair, his role in the trap a small step toward redemption. Isabella's mind churned, already planning the next move's legal battles, public vindication for Elena, and protection for her unborn nephew. But Serena's parting glance gnawed at her, a reminder that villains rarely fall without a final strike. As the police vans vanished into the Key Biscayne night, one question burned brighter than the city's lights, demanding an answer that could change everything. The Key Biscayne villa, once the stage for Serena Blake's empire of deceit, had vanished into the Miami night, yet its ghost still haunted the chambers of Elena Harper's heart. In a serene Palm Beach retreat, where palms swayed and whispered beneath a blush-streaked sky, Elena rested in a sunlit birthing suite, her spirit reborn like dawn breaking over the Atlantic. The sting of Serena's slap and the weight of James's betrayal had marked her, but the determined kicks of her unborn child had been her anchor in the storm. Now, as each contraction rose and fell like waves against the shore, her resolve hardened. With a fierce grip on the bedrail, she welcomed Liam Hope Harper into the world, his first cries soaring like a victory hymn carved from survival itself. The retreat's cool linens and salt-kissed breeze cocooned her, but within, a deeper metamorphosis was taking shape. Liam, warm and swaddled in her arms, his tiny fingers curling around hers, was more than a child. He was the living proof of her endurance, a beacon ignited in the ashes of betrayal. Yet as nurses moved quietly around her, and the sunlight spilled through the window, something unexpected emerged from the folds of her hospital bag. A letter, its edges softened by handling, bore James's handwriting. Hidden among Liam's baby clothes, it waited like a secret poised to change everything. Her heart, still bruised from months of pain, hesitated, then surrendered to curiosity. She unfolded the paper, her breath hitching as James's confession poured out, reframing the wreckage of their love. In his words, a truth struck as sharply as Serena's hand had. Serena had blackmailed him. Armed with forged evidence that could destroy his family's charity foundation, a lifeline funding schools for disadvantaged children. He had strayed, not from love, but from desperation, convinced he could outwit her while shielding Elena and their unborn child from disgrace. Each clandestine meeting, each lie, had been an attempt flawed, costly to protect them. The ink blurred through Elena's tears, not of rage, but of a sorrow knotted with understanding. James's missteps were grievous, but beneath them lay a plea for forgiveness, a trembling bridge to a love they might yet salvage. Elena's heart wrestled with the revelation, her fingers tracing the softness of Liam's cheek as she weighed the past against the future. She chose forgiveness, but refused to surrender her strength.
In the hush of the birthing suite, she envisioned a future where her pain became purpose. She told James, her voice calm but resolute, that he would fund a shelter for abused women, a sanctuary where others could reclaim the power she had found again. It would be his atonement, not in words, but in walls that could protect the vulnerable. This shelter would stand as her testament, turning scars into a lighthouse for those lost at sea. Isabella Kane, named Liam's godmother, stood proudly beside her sister. The billionaire's steel softened into pride as she drew inspiration from Elena's resilience. Within weeks, Isabella launched a nationwide network of clinics and safe havens for expectant mothers, her wealth now an instrument of change. The Miami skyline, once a backdrop to humiliation, now shimmered with hope, its lights reflecting the promise of new beginnings. Isabella's hand on Elena's shoulder was more than comfort. It was a fortress no scandal could breach. In Liam's newborn eyes, she saw the same ember that had carried Elena through the darkest nights, a legacy of resilience no enemy could erase. The Palm Beach retreat, with its quiet gardens and ocean lullaby, seemed to exhale the final remnants of the past. Cradling Liam, Elena felt the weight of her journey dissolve into a steady, radiant strength. James, permitted a tentative visit, stood quietly, humbled, at the edge of the room. Next month's groundbreaking ceremony for the shelter would mark Elena's transformation, not as a victim, but as a symbol of hope. The tabloids, once venom-tipped, now sang her praises, their headlines echoing her rise. Yet, even in this new light, a shadow lingered. Serena's USB drive, locked in Detective Bennett's custody, still pulsed with untold secrets. Isabella's crusade and Elena's shelter were victories, but the ghost of Serena's defiance hinted at storms still forming beyond the horizon. The ocean outside whispered of battles won and of mysteries waiting. Elena kissed Liam's forehead, her heart steady, her purpose clear. The world felt reborn in her arms, yet one question burned quietly in the morning glow, a promise that the story was far from over.